Continuing the build-up now to the Republic of Ireland versus Canada. 1pm Irish time kickoff. Delighted to say Linda Gorman has joined us back in studio. Morning, Linda.
Good morning, lads.
Thanks for hopping in.
Delighted to be here.
You've got the hat with you as well. I've never seen anything like it.
It's very impressive.
But listen, there's quite a few of them over in the in Perth today, I can tell you, because that was made by a friend who lives in Sheriff Street. So she's made quite a few of them.
So it's roasting on a summer's day.
Who cares?
Who cares?
There's a bit of work gone into that, Linda. That is not. That's not something you're buying in one of these supermarkets.
Oh no, this is hand. It was crocheted. It's over a cap.
Oh yeah, okay.
And to give it the effect.
Yeah.
Some people think I'm Mexican, but however.
Yeah, today you're definitely Irish, 100%. Are you feeling nervous, optimistic? How's the head for this one?
Very optimistic today.
Right?
Yeah, really, really feeling good today because of the results that the Canadians had. Yeah,
they haven't been all that impressive, have they, in recent months?
Well, I don't think so. I mean, people look at them they're coming from the back of having won the Olympics, but I haven't really been impressed with them. And the Nigerians put it up to them, and if I'm correct, they have 2 yellow cards coming into this game. So it's interesting to know who they're going to, what the team lineup will be.
If you're not feeling that they're going to, because we were chatting about it earlier on, that teams can sometimes start off a little bit slowly and work their way in. You're seeing more worrying signs from a Canadian point of view in the lead into this. Yeah,
because they absolutely have to get a result. Look how, they're quite ahead of us in the rankings as well, and I mean they're very disappointed. I would be crazily disappointed not having gotten something out of the last game. So I think again the pressure is on them. Now we're going to want to show what we can do, and we will be cautious, but I'm hoping that we will have a little more of an attacking setup. It's a completely different game, because the Irish will have done their homework, Vera would have done her homework, and the Canadians would have done their homework. And of course they're always going to be trying to match who can we cancel out on the Irish team. And to be quite honest with you, I think the girls on the Irish team, I mean, if Katie McCabe's going to be targeted, if Denise O'Sullivan's going to be targeted, they have that just suits them down to the ground. They'll come out with something, they'll come out on top because they read the game very well. And another thing about being targeted and try to play out a game is that you can do things to draw people to release other players just because you are the player that you are.
Yeah.
So if they could draw 2 or 3 players to them if they're on the ball and they're smart enough to release the ball early, we might have the advantage.
And Jessie Fleming being back as the playmaker, presumably that's a direct battle with her and Katie McCabe. It's going to be physical either way.
Listen, I love a physical game myself, and that's what you have to do when you're going out. You have to try and look for their weaknesses, and we all have weaknesses, but Katie's not going to lie down under this one. Absolutely not.
There are a couple of injury concerns mentioned in the papers, which have been concerning us all week. I guess Louise Quinn and Heather Payne being the 2 that I'm talking about. If either of those are to be missing, it's a bit of a blow. Vera Pauw isn't a manager, I guess, that likes to utilise a lot of her squad. So when it gets to the second choice, the third choice in a certain position, I guess the options are limited.
Yeah, they are limited, all right, but I would pay no attention to anything like that until I see the lineup. I really wouldn't. I wouldn't speculate, because I mean sometimes this is a psychological game. The way the Aussies were or the Canadians were talking yesterday, and the way the Aussies had been previously, this type of stuff comes on. But we're well used to that, and I hope the girls are not listening to any of that type of stuff.
If you're selecting a team, because I was watching your post-match with Shane and Aisling after the last game, and you weren't as impressed with Abby Larkin as a lot of others. And there's one suggestion in the Sun this morning that Payne may miss out, Shiva drops a bit deeper, and Larkin comes in. Is it a straight shootout between herself and Barrett, or how do you lean on that conversation?
Well, my thoughts when Abby came on was that she was unsure when she got the ball what she was doing in the first couple of minutes, and then one of her passes was quite weak coming across. So I don't know whether she was ahead of the girls in terms of her attacking and thinking, and they hadn't caught up, or it was just because she was smiling coming on, thrilled to be on, whereas most people would be just so serious. She's young, you know, but she has some talent. Oh, she's so good. I mean, she will. You know, she will make an impression, and it's going to be great for us if we have the likes of her coming on. It's quite possibly Shifa might go back if Payne is injured, but again, we can't really tell. We have to just wait and see, because we all thought Vera was going to put on, you know, Amber Barrett, you know, and quite a few people were taken aback that she hadn't. So we really don't know what's going on.
On Amber Barrett. Like, it seems to have been a thread since the match, the opening game, but like we were chatting this morning, there's a very distinct and real possibility that she mightn't play a minute at this World Cup, given the way Vera Pauw goes about things. Like, we needed a goal later on against Australia, and she didn't use her then, so presumably she's not going to use her at any stage if we need a goal. She's not her option. Well,
you know, I'm sure people will have said to Vera, look at, you know, she's hearing whispers here there because she's out in the media, you know, she's going to be hearing whispers, why are you not putting on Barrett? I mean, you have to look at what Barrett can give in relation to who she's playing against, and a lot of us thought that she definitely would put her up to the Aussies, and she will put her up to the Canadians if she's given the opportunity. I would think, and it would make sense, and the only way I can figure out what Vera is doing is that the more you play together, the more you're synchronised with each other, and maybe that's the reason why she's mainly sticking to the same team and the same type of system of play. But if you look at the other teams that are playing in the World Cup, like, the majority have really going for it. They're pushing 2 and 3 players forward, you know, in a line out. So and you know, and it's worked for them. It really has worked for them. So maybe take a little bit of pressure off the back and maybe push somebody forward, so that we always have somebody to aim for if we're in trouble. And if we can't aim for them, like, we're looking to play in behind the wingers, you know, so that we can at least have them running on the back feet.
Yeah, it's not Vera Pauw saying that's not her style, is it? Like, it'll be a departure from the norm.
Could I just say that it is the departure from the norm, and what excited me was that the players seem restricted in their individual talents, but when she let loose in the last 15-20 minutes, I mean, we could see the players expressing themselves and the stuff that they could do, and it sort of lifted the game as another gear. That's the way I read it.
Can I ask you one that's slightly related to that? We were talking about it a bit earlier on, Vera Pauw's comments in the press conference yesterday, where she talked about she has to play 5 at defence because they're good players but they just don't have any pace. It felt to me to be a slightly unusual comment. To be, it's not an incorrect comment, right? I think everybody's aware that we're lacking a bit of pace at the back, but to be saying that in the middle of the World Cup, it felt to me a little bit out of kilter with the general spirit of things.
Well, my philosophy is the best form of defence is attack, and if you can keep the ball away from our players, and our players are thinking, I got to find you first, second touch on the ball, or maybe the first touch on the ball, I've got to find somebody, and the players, knowing that their back four may not be fast, should be showing for the ball, if nothing else. I'm not sure I'd say something like that, you know, because it is sort of obvious, but I wouldn't emphasise it. But at the same time, our girls can read the game and they can anticipate moves, and that's one thing that we have going for us, and they're very brave.
Yeah.
You know.
That's the thing that Vera Pauw is calling for on the back page of a lot of the papers. Show me guts. She says she wants the players to have the guts to fail. I guess it's got to that point where it is winner takes all, like, and we need at least a point from this game today. The players know that, so it is all or nothing if they're ever going to have a massive display. This is the biggest game in these players' careers. We said that about the Australia game, but now there's actual jeopardy on the line here.
Yeah, have the guts to fail. That's sort of like saying, listen, you can make mistakes, you can make a mistake, but, you know, don't be afraid to go for the ball, even if you do make a mistake. It's all or nothing today. It's a great opportunity. Let's not talk about all or nothing. It's a great opportunity to get a result out of this, provided we have the right mindset. Individual players have the right mindset. I hope Shifa is going to start off today because she's going to up their game you know, in terms of she obviously feels terrible after the penalty, but when that happens to you, you want to give an extra 10%, you know, which is very good for her. And I mean, if I was talking to her, I'd say to her, look, you're very lucky, you're starting your career. Sheridan missed a penalty and she's at the end of her career. She'll never get a chance now, you know, to do this, you know. That's, you know, so you have to put that aside and get on with the game and get on with the best that you can do in your area. But you know, there's loads of different things you can do if you're a slow player. You know, you're not fast. Yeah, if you can anticipate passes, you can get close to the player that they can't turn. So it saves you having to chase instead of stepping off, letting them run at you, and then you can't get them. You know. Yeah. So it's really individuals being able to read their own game in their own area, but also having somebody to get them out of trouble. So, for instance, if I was playing, and I do this all the time, I even do it with the lads, I always say, no, stay out, because I need somebody to play the ball to, or an area to play the ball to. I don't want to come back in on top of me.
You have to play it to your strengths, I guess. The Rubber Ducky saying in the comments, people just can't handle straight talking these days. If the management team came out and said we were amazing and should have won 3-0, would the media be going along with that narrative? That's the other side of it, and we mentioned it earlier that these are grown adults, these players. So Vera Pauw saying something in a press conference that, you know, they're maybe a little bit slow, shouldn't really impact them. Not that the players are listening to the media discussions anyway, really. Well,
maybe they ought to sit in the American dressing room, because they think that, you know, they're going to win every position. They're so full of confidence, even if they're not. It doesn't really show in the games, but they're oozing confidence individually. I wouldn't be saying stuff to the press personally. You know, even whatever I felt inside, I wouldn't be saying anything.
We hammered Trapattoni for long enough. With, like, he kept coming out to say, he was basically saying, I know I'm basically doing these guys a favour because I'm better than they are. And you know, it's not. I think it's not a great message to send out in the middle of the World Cup. Listen, I think if we go out and win today 1-0, or we end up drawing it, everything's going to look like a masterstroke. But we'll see.
Listen, they're going to give their. What do you think is going to happen? I generally don't speculate, and I won't speculate because I don't know what the team is. You know, when I know what the team is and I get a feel for how individual players are playing in their position, it only takes about 10-15 minutes, and then how collectively who they link up with, I get this feeling, we're doing good. But if you have somebody that makes a mistake, particularly in defence, you've now got a player who's got to give half a job to helping somebody else out, so that stretches us really well. I really hope that we're going to stay compact as we move up the field, and we can support the forward players, you know, quickly, and not like some of the games. Now, I've been watching some of the games, and they're, you know, for Japan, for me, I just loved watching them. Brazil yesterday, you know, trying to take too much out of the ball, very clever in the very clever, very calm, very aware in the, you know, who was behind her. But I mean, and that's showmanship. I'd love to see that a bit earlier, and they obviously have it. And yesterday was the time to show it, but because they're not going to get that type of opportunity. But the Irish girls, going back to our Irish girls, you know, the Canadians haven't drawn in the last game, is going to give such an individual immense lift to the girls, because the door is open. It might be ajar, but at least it's open and the opportunity is there. But we've got to take it by, you know, scoring a goal. You have to score a goal.
Where's that going to come from?
It's hard to know. It depends on what she does. It's really hard to know. Could be Abby Larkin.
Could be.
Could be
Amber Barrett off the bench.
It could be Amber off the bench. If that, it could be Katie McCabe.
I
don't know. You know,
directly from a corner.
We'll take all three of them. Sure, we'll win 3-0.
Have you been watching the other games, or
bits and pieces? To be honest, I've been away, but
Brazilian goal. Sorry, the fact that England scraped past Haiti 1-0, and you're
There's definitely been a few odd results. Watching Brazil the other day, like you were saying, there was that goal that they scored where the goal opens up and just banging in the net, but she chooses to put it back the way, and then
but you see what she did when she rolled it back. She moved so that a player could just see everything in front of her.
Brilliant. And even the Philippines beating New Zealand as well. There's some shock results.
Well, you know what's good is that the lower ranked teams are actually outdoing themselves. They really are. And also for FIFA and this misconception that there's such a huge gap between the top tier and the lower tiers, it's actually closed quite quickly over this beginning of these few rounds in the World Cup.
You're marking the first home game as well.
We are. We played first home game in Bluebell's pitch
50 years ago.
And this is the team that's played. The famous Anne O'Brien, who's there as well. Amazing.
So the current team on the right and the first team on the left.
The first team on the left. And if you think of it, one of the girls, Mary Gavin, I think, was only 14.
That's
14.
14. Yeah. So all these records you think that people have done, we haven't really, they haven't really delved enough into the history of women's football. And the only way it can be done now really is locally. But yeah, 14.
Northern Ireland in Bluebell.
No, Northern Ireland, Bluebell's pitch, very generous of them to give us the pitch. I mean, you can imagine it wasn't actually like the pitches to play on now, so you had to adjust yourself because the lumps of turf that you had to get over, and then the goals, and it was in a housing estate. It wasn't on the new pitch they have now, but that's where everybody played, so.
There's consistent ACL injuries in the Women's Super League today on the unbelievable carpeted pitches, so I presume back then there were injuries galore.
Well, of the 32 players who played in the first 4 home games in 73, there are less than a handful who have any type of injury. Mostly it's just knee replacement, not ACL. So I'm not really sure, but I do know it's got to do with puberty and women having bigger hips ratio than men, and how it leans on the quads and then down into the joints in the knee, and that's really what the problem is. But that can be addressed by doing particular type of exercises that differ from the guys. So in our day, because we trained with guys, I'm assuming is that I'm a visual learner, so I would look at a guy, say, doing a jump and the way he lands, and I want to land the way he lands, which is obviously probably suited me because I never had any knee injuries or anything like that. A lot of us didn't. When you think of the 32 squad.
Amazing.
Amazing. But then we were doing an awful lot of cross sports as well.
This is it. Different types of sports.
And you have to build up your glutes. So we didn't know that at the time, but we did a lot of hill running in training.
That would have been ideal
that was doing it. So we didn't know that we were doing job back and forth. You know what I mean?
Your time without
listen, we didn't. We were just watching all the other. Well, mostly it was guys and the World Cup teams. And how they trained. I mean, I remember telling somebody that I had Kevin Healy, who was with Bose. He just opened my eyes to football. We've all him to thank for. He said to us, "You really don't know how to run." And I was shocked by that. So I joined Dublin City Harriers for 6 weeks, and he was so right, because I'd heard in one of the World Cups, I think it was either the late 70s or early 80s, I think it was early 80s, that the athleticism in the German team, who were very successful in that era, was down to the fact that they were getting coaching from athletics,
it's amazing,
and you can see it in some of the players, how they look athletic, the way they run, and then you can see it in other players where they look very heavy on the lower end. It's that's the type of stuff that I look at.
Absolutely. Linda, love the optimism that you've brought to the studio this morning. I'm feeling a little bit better about the game now. Enjoy the match, and thanks, Winnie, for having in as always. Brilliant stuff.